The stars had belonged to others for 50,000 years before humanity ever looked up and dreamed of reaching them. The Galactic Council ruled the known universe with careful precision. 847 species called the Council home. They traded, they talked, and they kept peace across millions of worlds. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Magellan's Promise and stared at the massive station floating before her ship. It looked like a city made of crystal and light, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. She had seen many beautiful things in her years exploring the cosmos, but nothing compared to this moment. Humanity had finally arrived. "Receiving transmission, Captain," her communications officer said. His voice shook slightly. Everyone on the bridge felt the weight of this moment. They were the first humans to make contact with alien life. The screen flickered to life. A creature appeared that Sarah could only describe as reptilian. Its scales shimmered with colors that seemed to shift in the light. Two large eyes regarded the human crew with what Sarah hoped was curiosity, rather than hostility. "I am Counselor Jexri of the Saurian Collective," the alien said. The translation device made its voice sound mechanical. "You are the species called humanity, yes? From the planet Earth?" "Yes," Sarah replied, standing straight. "We come in peace. We seek friendship and knowledge." Jexri made a sound that the translator rendered as a sigh. "Of course you do. They all do." The alien's eyes moved across the bridge, studying the human crew. "You have achieved faster-than-light travel. This grants you the right to petition for council membership. However, I must inform you that your species is remarkably young." "Young?" Sarah asked. "Your species has possessed spaceflight capability for only 3 centuries. Most species require at least 2,000 years to develop the stability necessary for galactic citizenship." Jexri tapped something on a device Sarah couldn't see. "Your method of FTL travel is also unusual. Quantum tunneling instead of traditional warp fields. Crude but functional." Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks. The alien spoke to her the way a professor might address a particularly slow student. "We may be young, but we're capable. We've survived wars, diseases, environmental collapse. We've learned to work together." "Survival is expected," Jexri said dismissively. "Maturity is another matter entirely. The Council will grant humanity probationary status. You may occupy a zone of 50 light-years around your home system. Trade will be limited. You will have an overseer to ensure you don't cause problems." The alien paused. "I have been assigned as your overseer." "We appreciate the opportunity," Sarah said carefully, though appreciation wasn't quite what she felt. 2 months later, Ambassador Marcus Webb sat in his small office on the council station and reviewed the latest reports from Earth. The news wasn't good. Humanity had entered the galactic community with high hopes. Those hopes were being crushed under the weight of bureaucracy and condescension. Every request for expanded trade required 50 forms. Every petition for exploration rights took months to process. Every interaction with other species involved subtle reminders that humanity was the newest, youngest, and least important member of the Council. The door chimed. "Come in," Marcus said. Jexri entered, moving with the fluid grace of a predator. The Saurian had visited Marcus's office 12 times in the past 2 months. Each visit involved new restrictions or warnings. "Ambassador Webb," Jexri said, settling into a chair designed for human anatomy but somehow making it look uncomfortable. "I bring news from the High Chancellor. Your species has been approved for limited mining rights in the Kepler sector." "That's wonderful," Marcus said, though he knew there would be conditions. "However, you must pay a licensing fee to the Rex Consortium. They control mineral rights in that region." Jexri handed Marcus a datapad. "The fee is listed here." Marcus looked at the number and felt his stomach sink. It was 3 times what the minerals would be worth. "This is extortion." "This is business," Jexri corrected. "The Vrex are aggressive traders, but they operate within council law. Young species often struggle with the complexities of galactic commerce. You'll learn." After Jexri left, Marcus allowed himself a moment of frustration. He'd been a diplomat for 20 years. He'd negotiated treaties between nations that hated each other. He'd prevented wars and brokered peace deals, but nothing had prepared him for this. The Council treated humanity like children playing at a grown-up's table. His assistant, Jennifer Park, entered with another stack of reports. "More bad news?" Marcus asked. "Mixed," Jennifer said. She was young but sharp, always seeing angles others missed. The Vrex have claimed another system we were surveying. They say we didn't file the proper ownership documents. We filed everything correctly. I know. They're testing us. Jennifer sat down across from him. I've been studying council history. This happens to every new species. The established powers push and prod, seeing how the newcomers react. Most species either submit and accept inferior status, or they lash out and get expelled from the council. Marcus leaned back in his chair. What do species do if they want to succeed? That's the interesting part, Jennifer said. The most successful species find a third option. They play by the rules but find creative solutions. They prove their worth in ways the council doesn't expect. And how do we prove our worth? Marcus asked. Jennifer smiled. That's what we need to figure out. But we have one advantage. The council has been running the same way for 50,000 years. They think they've seen everything. They haven't seen us yet. Back on Earth, billions of people watched the news reports from the council station. The initial excitement of first contact had given way to frustration and anger. Humanity had reached for the stars only to be told they weren't good enough yet. But humans had never been good at accepting limitations. Across the globe, scientists, strategists, and thinkers began working on the problem. How could humanity prove itself to species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years? How could they show that being young didn't mean being weak? The answer would come from the most unexpected place. Not from advanced technology or military might, but from something humanity had been doing since the dawn of civilization, something the galaxy had forgotten or never known. The game was about to change. Humanity was about to take the field. 6 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. Those 6 months had taught Marcus Webb many things, none of them pleasant. The universe was vast and beautiful, but it was also rigid and unforgiving to newcomers. The Vrex Consortium had become humanity's primary problem. The Vrex were traders, but they traded like wolves hunted. They were a coalition of 3 species that had merged their governments centuries ago for profit. Now they controlled shipping lanes, mining rights, and trade agreements across a significant portion of the galaxy. They had decided that humanity's territory was prime for expansion. Marcus sat in an emergency meeting with Earth's government via quantum communication. The holographic images of the President, the Secretary General of the United Nations, and several military commanders surrounded him. They've blockaded 3 of our colony worlds, Admiral Chen reported. Sarah had been promoted after her successful first contact mission. Now she commanded humanity's small defensive fleet. New Shanghai, Kepler 442b, and Ross 128b. They're not firing on our ships, but they're preventing any supplies from getting through. Our colonists have maybe 2 months of food left. What's their justification? The President asked. They claim we didn't pay proper transit fees, Marcus said bitterly. Fees that didn't exist until last week. They're inventing rules and demanding we follow them retroactively. Can the council stop them? The Secretary General asked. Marcus shook his head. I've filed 17 complaints. The council says this is a trade dispute and that humanity needs to negotiate directly with the Vrex. But the Vrex won't negotiate. They just keep raising their demands. What about military action? One of the commanders asked. Admiral Chen answered before Marcus could. Their blockade ships are better armed than anything we have. We could maybe break through one blockade, but we'd lose half our fleet doing it, and then the council would probably expel us for unauthorized military action. The President rubbed his temples. So we're trapped. We submit to extortion or we fight and lose everything. There has to be another way, Marcus said, but he didn't know what it was. Jennifer Park had been researching day and night, digging through 50,000 years of council history. The database was enormous, filled with laws, precedents, and forgotten regulations. Most of it was mind-numbingly boring. Trade agreements, territorial disputes, economic treaties, but buried in the ancient records. She found something interesting. The right of contest, she said, bursting into Marcus's office at what Earth would have considered 3 in the morning. Marcus had stopped sleeping normal hours weeks ago. The what? He asked, looking up from yet another futile complaint form. It's an old law, maybe 8,000 years old. It was created when the council was younger and smaller. Jennifer's eyes were bright with excitement. It says that any probationary species can challenge their status through a trial. If they succeed, they gain full membership immediately. If they fail, they accept whatever status the council assigns them. Marcus felt a flutter of hope. What kind of trial? That's the beautiful part. The challenging species gets to propose the trial, and the council votes on whether to accept it. It has to be something that tests the species' worthiness, but beyond that, the rules are flexible. Has anyone used this recently? Not in 8,000 years. Most species just wait out their probationary period. It usually takes 50 to 100 years. Jennifer leaned forward. But Marcus, we don't have 50 years. We might not have 50 weeks. Marcus thought for a long moment. An idea was forming in his mind. Something audacious and probably insane. Tell me something, Jennifer. In all your research, have you found any mention of sports? Competitive games? Anything like that? Jennifer frowned. No, why? Because I think we've found our third option. The emergency council session was held 3 days later. The chamber was massive, a circular room where representatives from hundreds of species sat in rows that rose up like an amphitheater. At the center stood a single podium where petitioners could address the assembly. Marcus walked to that podium with Jennifer beside him. His heart hammered in his chest. This was the moment. Everything depended on what happened next. High Chancellor Mordeth, a being that looked like it was made of living crystal, spoke first. Its voice resonated through the chamber without need for translation. The human delegation has requested emergency session time. This is highly irregular for a probationary species. Ambassador Webb, you may speak. Marcus cleared his throat. Honored council members, I come before you to invoke the right of contest. A murmur ran through the chamber. Hundreds of alien voices speaking dozens of languages created a wave of sound that the translation system struggled to process. The right of contest has not been invoked in millennia, Mordeth said. Are you certain this is what humanity wishes? We are certain, Marcus said firmly. The Vrex Consortium has pushed humanity to a breaking point. We cannot continue under current conditions. We seek full council membership and recognition of our territorial claims. A Vrex representative, a creature that looked like a combination of an octopus and a scorpion, stood up. The humans are children throwing a tantrum because they don't like business realities. This is absurd. It is their right, Mordeth said. The law is clear. Ambassador Webb, what trial do you propose? Marcus took a deep breath. I propose a physical competition. A game. Humanity will field a team. We will compete against any challengers the council wishes to send. The competition will test strategy, adaptability, teamwork, and determination. The chamber fell silent. Then slowly laughter began. Not cruel laughter, but the laughter of those who hear something absurd. Physical competition games. These were concepts the galaxy had left behind thousands of years ago. Jexery stood. Ambassador Webb, the council species have evolved beyond such primitive displays. We wage economic wars, not physical ones. Surely you can propose something more sophisticated. I propose what humanity does best, Marcus said. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest. We're not the longest lived or the most technologically advanced. But we know how to compete. We know how to fight with rules. We know how to win as a team. He looked around the chamber. I'm betting the galaxy has forgotten how. More laughter, but this time it had an edge of uncertainty. The Vrex representative waved a tentacle dismissively. We accept. This will be amusing. When humanity fails, they will accept subordinate status permanently. Other species began volunteering to join a team that would face humanity. They saw it as entertainment, a chance to put the upstart humans in their place. High Chancellor Mordeth raised a crystalline appendage for silence. Very well. The challenge is accepted. 3 months from now, on the neutral world of Concordia, humanity will face a council team in this competition of theirs. The galaxy will watch. The outcome will determine humanity's fate. Marcus nodded and left the podium. As he walked out, Jennifer whispered, I hope you know what you're doing. So do I, Marcus replied. But inside he was smiling. Humanity had just done what it did best. They'd changed the rules of the game. Earth had 3 months to prepare for the most important competition in human history. Within hours of Marcus's challenge, every government on the planet mobilized. This wasn't just about pride anymore. This was about survival. General Maria Santos stood in a converted military base in Colorado that now served as training headquarters. Around her, the finest athletes and soldiers from every nation gathered. Olympic champions, special forces operators, chess grandmasters, mountain climbers, deep-sea divers, anyone who had ever competed at the highest level and won. Listen up, Maria addressed the assembled group of 200 candidates. In 3 months, 12 of you will represent not just your countries but our entire species. The competition will test everything: strength, speed, strategy, endurance, but most importantly, it will test our ability to work together. A former Navy SEAL named James Rodriguez raised his hand. General, what exactly are we competing in? What are the rules? That's the challenge, Maria admitted. The council is designing the competition now. They'll announce the rules 1 week before the event. We have to train for everything. An Olympic gymnast from China, Liu Wei, spoke up. How do we prepare when we don't know what we're preparing for? Maria smiled. We prepare by becoming the most adaptable team ever assembled. We train in every environment, every situation. We learn each other's strengths and weaknesses better than we know our own. When the time comes, it won't matter what the game is. We'll be ready. The training began immediately. The candidates were divided into groups and rotated through dozens of different scenarios. Urban combat simulations, zero-gravity maneuvering, puzzle solving under time pressure, long-distance running, team chess, underwater navigation, rock climbing, vehicle operation, medical emergencies. Every possible challenge that human minds could imagine. After 2 weeks, half the candidates had been eliminated. Not because they weren't excellent, but because they couldn't adapt fast enough or work well enough with others. The galaxy was about to learn what team sport meant, and Maria needed players who understood that concept in their bones. Colonel David Okonkwo from Nigeria watched his team run an obstacle course while carrying a wounded teammate. Not because anyone was actually wounded, but because that's what teammates did. They carried each other. The alien species probably wouldn't understand that concept. They'd been so civilized for so long that they'd forgotten what it meant to struggle together. They look good, Admiral Chen said, walking up beside him. She'd been consulting on the project, offering insights from her time meeting with the aliens. They're the best we have, David agreed. But I'm worried. We don't know what we're up against. The aliens might have physical advantages we can't overcome. Sarah shook her head. I've studied them. The Vreks are strong but slow. The Saurians are fast but fragile. The crystalline beings are intelligent but inflexible. Every species has advantages, but they also have weaknesses. More importantly, they don't have experience working together. The Vreks, Saurians, and others have been competing economically for centuries. They don't trust each other, and we do. Sarah gestured at the obstacle course where a Russian soldier was helping a Brazilian athlete over a wall, while an American provided cover fire in the simulation. We're learning, too. That's our advantage. Meanwhile, on the council station, the galaxy was buzzing with excitement. The competition had been officially named the Trial of Humanity, and broadcasters from every species were preparing coverage. Betting pools had opened on hundreds of worlds. The odds heavily favored the council team. Jexri met with the council team representatives in a private chamber. 6 species had volunteered to form the opposition: Vreks, Saurian, Crystalline, Aquarian, Silicon, and Avian. Each brought unique abilities that, on paper, made humanity's victory seem impossible. Don't underestimate them, Jexri warned. I've been observing humans for months. They are unpredictable and stubborn. The Vreks commander, a massive creature named Crixik, made a dismissive gesture with 3 of its tentacles. They're primitives. This will be over quickly. Perhaps, Jexri said, but I've noticed something about humans. They don't know when to quit. Even when logic says they should surrender, they keep fighting. It's irrational, but it makes them dangerous. The avian representative, a bird-like being called Skria, fluttered its wings. Dangerous? They're children playing at being warriors. We've had millions of years to evolve. What can 300 years of spaceflight teach them that we don't already know? Jexri didn't answer, but privately he was beginning to wonder if the council had made a mistake. The humans had changed something in the galaxy's rhythm. For 50,000 years, things had been stable, predictable, and peaceful. Now there was uncertainty, change. It was uncomfortable, but also strangely exciting. Back on Earth, the final team was selected. 12 humans who represented the pinnacle of human capability and cooperation. Maria Santos herself would serve as team captain. James Rodriguez, the SEAL, would be her second in command. Louie would provide agility and flexibility. David Okonkwo brought tactical thinking. 8 others, each bringing their own skills, formed a team that had trained so intensively that they moved like a single organism. Marcus visited them 1 week before departure. The rules for the competition had finally been announced. The arena would be a massive holographic environment that could shift and change. 3 stages: territorial control, resource management, and direct confrontation. Teams would score points by holding objectives, gathering resources, and defeating opponents. The team with the most points after 6 hours would win. It's basically capture the flag meets chess meets rugby, Maria summarized after reading the rules. Played on a field that can turn into a forest, a city, an ocean, or a mountain at any moment. Can we win? Marcus asked. Maria looked at her team. They were tired from months of brutal training. They had bruises and scars. They'd argued and fought and learned to work together despite their differences. They represented 30 different countries but had become one unit. Ask me again in 6 hours, Maria said. But I'll tell you this. Whatever happens, the galaxy is going to remember that humans don't give up. The ships launched for Concordia 3 days later. 500 billion beings across the galaxy prepared to watch humanity either rise or fall. The council team was confident. The humans were determined. And the cosmos held its breath, waiting to see what would happen when 2 completely different philosophies collided. High Chancellor Mordeth watched the preparations from his crystal chamber and wondered if perhaps the galaxy had grown too comfortable. Perhaps it needed someone to shake things up. The humans were certainly doing that. He would watch this competition with great interest. Something told him that regardless of who won, the galaxy was about to change in ways no one expected. The arena on Concordia was like nothing humans had ever seen. It stretched for 5 square kilometers, surrounded by transparent barriers that rose 100 meters high. Above it, hovering platforms held cameras and observation decks where thousands of aliens gathered to watch. The holographic field generators created environments so realistic that they were indistinguishable from the real thing. Maria Santos led her team onto the field. They wore simple uniforms of blue and white, the colors of Earth's flag. Across from them, the council team emerged. 6 different species, each wearing their own colors, looking like they'd never trained together because they hadn't. The Vrex commander Krixik towered over the others, its armored carapace gleaming. High Chancellor Mordeth's voice boomed across the arena and to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Let the trial of humanity begin. The field shimmered and transformed into a dense jungle. The first stage had begun: territorial control. 5 objectives appeared as glowing markers scattered throughout the terrain. Each team needed to claim and hold them to score points. Spread out pairs, Maria ordered. Her team moved instantly, each pair heading toward an objective. Years of training made them move like water, flowing around obstacles, communicating with hand signals and short words. The council team was faster. The avian species reached the first objective in seconds, flying above the jungle canopy. The Aquarians, moving through a river that cut through the terrain, secured another. The Vrex, with their enormous strength, simply crashed through the vegetation toward a third. But speed wasn't everything. James Rodriguez and Liu Wei reached their objective to find a crystalline being already there, its translucent body refracting light in beautiful patterns. The alien was incredibly intelligent, its mind processing information faster than any human could. It saw James and Liu approaching and calculated a dozen strategies to defeat them. What it didn't calculate was that James and Liu weren't trying to fight it. Liu somersaulted past the crystalline, grabbed the objective marker, and tossed it to James. James caught it and ran while Liu engaged the alien in conversation, asking questions about its species, its culture, anything to distract it. By the time the crystalline realized what happened, James was gone and Liu was disappearing into the jungle. The alien crowd made sounds of surprise. That wasn't how competitions worked. There were supposed to be rules about honor and direct confrontation. The humans were doing something called playing dirty. Jexri, watching from his observation platform, made a sound that might have been a laugh. I told you, they're unpredictable. The council team was stronger and faster, but the human team was coordinated. When 2 Vrex tried to overwhelm David Okonkwo's position, the rest of the human team converged on that location. 6 humans against 2 Vrex. The aliens were confused. Why would the entire team abandon their objectives to help one member? Maria's voice came through the communicators. Because we win together or we lose together. The Vrex were defeated not through strength but through coordination. The humans knew exactly where each teammate was at every moment. They communicated constantly, adapting their strategy in real time. The first stage ended with humans holding 3 objectives to the council team's 2. The score was close. The arena transformed again. Now it became a vast city, with buildings, streets, and a central plaza. The second stage was resource management. Valuable items were scattered throughout the city. Teams had to collect them and bring them to a central point. But carrying items slowed you down and made you vulnerable. The council team had a brilliant strategy. The silicon beings, which were incredibly strong, gathered the resources. The avians provided aerial reconnaissance. The Vrex guarded the collectors. It should have worked perfectly. But halfway through the stage, Maria noticed something. The council team members weren't communicating. The silicon beings kept gathering the same type of resource, creating duplicates they didn't need. The avians spotted human teams but didn't warn their ground units effectively. The Vrex guards were protecting empty positions because no one had told them the collectors had moved. They've never done this before, Maria realized. They don't know how to be a team. She made a decision that seemed insane. Everyone, we're switching roles. James, you call the plays now. I'm going to collect resources. David, take James's position. Lou, cover David. The team didn't question. They didn't argue. They simply did it. This was something they'd practiced. Rotating leadership, trusting each other completely. Any team member could lead if necessary. The council team watched in confusion as the humans kept changing their formation. It was chaos. It was irrational. It was also devastatingly effective because while it looked like chaos from outside, from inside the team, it was a carefully orchestrated dance. The second stage ended with humans ahead by a significant margin. The alien crowd was no longer laughing. They were leaning forward, watching intently. This wasn't supposed to be possible. The final stage began. The arena became a mountainous terrain with narrow passes and high peaks. This was direct confrontation. Teams would face each other in combat using non-lethal weapons that the arena provided. It was like laser tag combined with capture the flag, played on terrain that required climbing, jumping, and endurance. The council team had every advantage. They were stronger, faster, and more durable. The avians could fly. The Aquarians could breathe underwater. The Vrex were armored. The humans were just humans, fragile and limited. But 15 minutes into the final stage, everything changed. Maria took a hit from a Vrex weapon and went down. Her leg was disabled by the simulation, counting as a serious injury. According to the rules, she could continue playing, but at greatly reduced capability. Captain's down, James reported. I'm taking command. Maria, fall back to Objective 3. Negative, Maria grunted, pulling herself up. I can still shoot. I can still think. Use me. This was the moment the galaxy saw something it had never witnessed before. A wounded leader refusing to quit. Teammates adjusting their entire strategy to protect their injured captain while still pushing forward. The concept of playing hurt, of giving everything you had even when logic said you should quit. The council team didn't understand. The crystalline calculated that Maria should retreat to preserve resources. The Vrex believed an injured warrior was useless. The avians thought it was illogical to risk the team for one member. They were all wrong. The human team gathered around Maria, created a defensive position, and from that position, they launched an assault so coordinated and fierce that the council team couldn't respond. Every human knew exactly where to be, exactly what to do. They moved as one being with 12 bodies. With 15 minutes remaining, the humans were winning but barely. The council team was rallying, using their superior physical abilities to push back. Victory could go either way. That's when Maria called for the play they'd practiced but hoped they'd never need to use. The play they called Hail Mary because it was a prayer more than a strategy. Everyone converge on my position, Maria said. We're going for broke. That's suicide, the crystalline calculated and announced over the arena speakers. They'll lose everything. Maybe, Jexri said quietly. Or maybe we're about to learn what humanity really means. The entire human team converged on Maria's position at the central mountain peak. They abandoned every other objective. They left resources uncollected. They pulled back from defensive positions. Everything rode on this one moment. The council team saw the movement and moved to surround them. It was exactly what the aliens wanted. All 12 humans in one location, trapped on high ground with nowhere to retreat. The Vrex moved up from the south. The avians circled from above. The Aquarians controlled the water approaches. The silicon and crystalline beings blocked the northern route. The Saurians, fastest of all, were closing from the east. 5 billion humans watching from Earth held their breath. Billions more aliens across the galaxy watched with anticipation. This was the end. The humans had made a desperate gamble and lost. Now, Maria said quietly, what happened next would be analyzed for years to come. Every human moved with perfect synchronization. James and 3 others created a defensive line facing the Vrex, not to fight them but to buy 5 precious seconds. Liu and 2 gymnasts used climbing gear to scale the sheer cliff face to their west, a route the aliens had dismissed as impossible. David and 2 soldiers engaged the Saurians with suppressing fire, not trying to win but to slow them down. Maria, injured leg and all, ran toward the main objective point with the 2 remaining team members covering her. It was chaos. It was beautiful. It was a plan so complex and so simple that it only worked because 12 people trusted each other completely. The avians dove to intercept Maria, but found Liu and her team already at the western cliff top, providing covering fire. The Vrex broke through James's line, but too late. James had already accomplished his goal of delaying them. The crystalline calculated the humans' strategy, but couldn't convince the other council team members to adapt fast enough because they'd never learned to communicate under pressure. Maria reached the objective with 30 seconds remaining. She planted the human flag, scoring massive points. The council team converged on her position, ready to overwhelm her and retake the point. But the human team was already moving to their next positions. Liu's group rappelled down and flanked the Vrex. James's group circled around and hit the Aquarians from an unexpected angle. David's soldiers created a crossfire that pinned down the Saurians. It wasn't about winning individual fights. It was about controlling the battlefield through teamwork so precise that it looked like telepathy. The timer hit 0. The arena froze. The scores appeared on massive holographic displays visible to everyone. Humanity had won by a single point. The silence in the arena was absolute. 500 billion beings across the galaxy processed what they'd just witnessed. Then slowly the alien crowd began to make sounds. Some species whistled, some clicked, some hummed. The translation computer struggled but finally settled on the closest human equivalent. Applause. The human team collapsed on the arena floor, exhausted beyond anything they'd ever experienced. Maria lay on her back staring at the sky, tears running down her face. They'd done it. Against every logical prediction, against superior opponents, against all odds, they'd won. High Chancellor Mordeth descended to the arena floor. The ancient crystalline being moved slowly, its form shimmering in the light. It stood before the human team as they struggled to their feet. I have lived for 2,400 years, Mordeth said, its voice resonating through the arena. I have witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. I have seen wonders beyond description, but I have never seen what I witnessed today. The Chancellor turned to address the crowd and the billions watching across space. This human team had every disadvantage. They were physically weaker. They were less experienced. They were young. By every logical measure, they should have lost. But they possessed something we have forgotten. They possessed the will to sacrifice individually for collective success. They possessed trust so complete that 12 beings could act as one. They possessed the determination to continue fighting even when wounded, even when losing, even when logic said to surrender. Mordeth looked back at Maria. Captain Santos, you and your team have taught the galaxy a lesson we desperately needed. We have been so focused on individual excellence that we forgot the power of working together. We have been so comfortable in our superiority that we forgot what it means to struggle for something greater than ourselves. The Chancellor raised its crystalline appendages. I declare humanity's trial complete. They have proven their worth beyond any doubt. Humanity is granted full council membership immediately. Their territorial claims are recognized. The Vrex Consortium will withdraw from human space and pay appropriate reparations. The crowd erupted in sound again. The Vrex commander Krixik approached the human team. For a moment, tension filled the air. Then Krixik extended a tentacle toward Maria. You fought with honor, the Vrex said. More than honor. You fought with something we don't have words for in our language. Heart, Maria said, shaking the tentacle. We call it heart. 1 year later, Earth's largest stadium was filled beyond capacity. The first Galactic Olympics had begun, and representatives from 10,000 species had come to watch and participate. Marcus Webb, now Secretary General of the Galactic Council, stood at the podium for the opening ceremony. He looked out at the incredible diversity before him. Beings of every imaginable shape and size from hundreds of worlds, gathered not to compete for territory or resources but to play games. 1 year ago, humanity took the field for the first time, Marcus began. We didn't know if we would win or lose. We just knew we had to try. Today, the galaxy takes the field together, not as enemies, not as competitors in the economic sense, but as players in something greater. He gestured to the arena where teams from different species were warming up together. Avrex was teaching a group of smaller aliens how to properly grip a ball. A Saurian was explaining the concept of passing to a silicon being. An avian was demonstrating to human children how to intercept from above. We didn't come to the stars to conquer, Marcus continued. We came to share. We shared our concept of teamwork, of competitive spirit, of playing for the joy of the game rather than just to win. And you shared your wisdom, your patience, your incredible diversity with us. In the stands, Counselor Jexri sat next to Admiral Chen. The Saurian had become one of humanity's strongest advocates in the council. You know, Jexri said, when I first met your species, I thought you were primitives who would either destroy yourselves or become irrelevant. Sarah smiled. And now? Now I think the galaxy was dying of old age. We'd become so civilized that we'd forgotten how to live. You reminded us. Jexri watched as a mixed species team scored a goal and celebrated together. You taught us how to play again. On the field, the first game began. Humans and aliens competed side by side and against each other. There was laughter. There were mistakes. There were incredible displays of skill and hilarious failures. There was joy. High Chancellor Mordeth watched from his private box and felt something he hadn't felt in centuries. Hope. The galaxy had been running on momentum for so long that it had forgotten how to grow. Now, thanks to these young, brash, impossible humans, it was growing again. Maria Santos sat in the coaching area, her leg fully healed. She watched her team, now expanded to include members from a dozen species, take the field. They moved together, communicated together, trusted each other. Human and alien working as one. Captain, one of her players called. It was a young avian named Creole. What play should we run? Maria smiled. The one we practiced. Trust your teammates. Move together. And remember why we play. Why's that? Because somewhere out there, someone is watching who thinks they can't succeed. Someone who thinks they're not good enough. Someone who's forgotten that the greatest achievements come not from individual excellence, but from working together. Maria stood up. So go out there and show them what's possible when you refuse to give up. The game began. The crowd cheered. And across the galaxy, billions watched not with the detachment of observers but with the passion of fans. Humanity had taken the field. And in doing so, they'd invited the entire cosmos to play. The galaxy would never be the same. It would be better. It would be louder. It would be messier. It would be more alive than it had been in 50,000 years. And it all started because 12 humans refused to accept that they couldn't win. They'd proven that being young didn't mean being weak. That being different didn't mean being inferior. That with enough determination, trust, and heart, anything was possible. The cosmos had been stunned when humanity took the field. Now the cosmos was grateful, because humanity hadn't just won a game. They'd reminded the galaxy what it meant to truly live.